Emergency show! The Denver Broncos have given a big time, a massive, a huge extension to their starting center, Luke Wattenberg, and we are here to break it down on an emergency show of the DNVR Broncos podcast. Henry Chisholm, Zach Stevens rocking and rolling with you, and we just got the terms. Henry, according to people that I've talked to, according to sources, Broncos give Luke Wattenberg a 4-year, $48 million extension with $27 million guaranteed. What is your initial reaction when you hear those details?
You hope for a little bit less for the Broncos' sake. Obviously happy for Luke. I mean, that's the big thing. I've gotten to watch him play football for a long time. This is my 4th year covering the Broncos. Before that, did the 3 years covering CU back when he was at Washington as a part of the Pac-12. So I remember going through all the tape and voting for him to be all Pac-12 back in the day. Got to see Montana Grizzlies go out there to Seattle and knock Washington off, which he says is the only time he's ever been booed off a field in his life. But good guy, somebody we've watched for a long time, and to see a 5th round pick go on to make $12 million a year. It's obviously a good sign for the Broncos. We talked about it. We thought there was a chance that maybe you sneak it in under $10 million though. So, money's going to a good guy.
Yeah, and Henry, I think actually on today's show earlier, I think you threw out the number $8 million. I think that's what you said. So obviously he gets quite a bit more than that, 50% more than that. And this just shows you exactly how the Broncos feel about Luke Wattenberg. And let's just be completely honest, Henry. Not a lot of people know how to grade a center.
Right.
That's fair because it's a difficult position to evaluate. And I think one of the things that just goes a little unnoticed about the center position is how much they do mentally on the field. It's the quarterback who does the most, and then it's the center who's number 2 right there. Mm-hmm. What this tells you is all you need to know about how much Luke Wattenberg does to help Bo Nix, to help this offensive line, to help this offense go. He is a key piece to this offensive line, and that's why they gave him $12 million a year. And he's here for at least 3 more years after this season because that $27 million is some serious money to be guaranteeing as well. So my initial reaction, Henry, is Sean Payton loves this offensive line, and he is going to make sure to do whatever he needs to do to keep this offensive line intact, and that is by paying Luke Wattenberg. Look, the Broncos are paying all 5 of their offensive linemen big-time money now, and we had the conversation just 8 hours ago. Would the Broncos be willing to pay 5 offensive linemen big-time money? The answer is a resounding yes, because you go across this offensive line, Henry. Garrett Bowles making $20.5 million per year on his deal that he signed less than a year ago. Ben Powers currently making $13 million a year. Luke Wattenberg now making $12 million a year. Henry, he is now tied to be the 6th highest paid center in the NFL. Then you go to Quinn Miners. He's making $18 million per year. And Mike McGlinchey caps it off at $17.5 million. It's really incredible that Wattenberg is the cheapest guy on your offensive line with his new deal at $12 million, the 6th highest paid center. And Henry, it's no surprise because when the Broncos hired Sean Payton, one of the first conversations we had was with our friend Chris Sims. And he said Sean Payton's going to go out there and get a lot of big effers on the offensive line to protect whoever his quarterback is going to be. Well, he did that. He went out and got that offseason Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey. The Broncos locked down Garrett Bowles, and then they make sure to give Quinn Miners a big extension. So it's no surprise that the Broncos are doing this because this is a Sean Payton football team, and Sean Payton football teams start in the middle and then build to the outside.
Yeah. You brought up Ben Powers, for example. a guy who makes about $13 million a year. And that's a contract that was given out a couple years ago. And so the way the salary cap inflates, it doubles every 10 years. That's worth the equivalent of even more money today. You have to remember that Ben Powers wasn't considered a huge loss for the Ravens. He was a guy who had played all right the year before in place of an injury. He kind of edged out the other guy in a training camp battle that year and put together like a decent season and wound up getting $13 million a year. I think that's a bit of perspective when you look at the $12 million for Luke Wattenberg, because that's kind of the going rate sometimes for guys at this level. I think across the board, you're paying a lot of guys, but you're not paying top of the market money to those guys. The fact that you're getting Quinn Miners, the best guard in the NFL, for less than that top of the market money is a good thing. Garrett Bowles playing as well as just about any tackle in the NFL. You're paying a little bit less than what you'd expect for that. And I think that when you go through and look at the savings that they're getting kind of at all those positions, it makes a lot of sense. And it goes back to kind of the philosophy that the Broncos have had the past few years where they're paying guys early. The same thing, Pat Surtain should be getting more money. Nick Bonito should probably be getting more money. But you get deals done early and you wind up better off because of it. So, $12 million, a little bit more than we expected, especially for a 4-year deal. But again, like that's kind of a drop in a bucket, or at least it will be in a few years when, the cap just keeps going up and you've got a good starting center for at least the next half decade.
Yeah, and Henry, I'm seeing a lot of reaction in the Toyota chat right now, which, by the way, hit us with the thumbs up if you're tuning in. We really appreciate it. First comment of the day came from our friend Gilly the Squid, who says, 8 p.m. emergency pod, must be living out in the Midwest. Let's go. Yes, we would just appreciate if you hit us with the thumbs up. We appreciate that. And I want to hear how you guys are feeling. And Henry, initial reactions from Broncos country in the Toyota chat. Seem like it's a little bit of an overpay. We have It's Stress says massive yikes. We say from Jake says no, he's mid. We have Odd Enough say I'm a little surprised at this one, but not too surprised. Daniel says OMG. So I'm curious if there's anyone out there that likes this deal. And Henry, why I'll tell you that I like this deal is because this offense is and one of the reasons Bo Nix has had such a good start to his career is because he's been protected by this offensive line. The Broncos have the best sack differential in NFL history through the first 11 games of a season. Obviously, the defense is on a historic pace, but the offense has also done an incredible job. Bo has a very quick processor, but the offensive line is also allowing him to do this. And what this deal shows me is two things. One, I mentioned it earlier, Sean, it puts a lot on Luke Wattenberg's plate in terms of the mental aspect of this. And the second one is that Sean thinks, man, in order to keep Bo developing the way he has, we need to keep this offensive line in front of him. So this isn't just an investment in a center. This is an investment in your offensive line, and this is an investment in Bo Nix continuing to develop the way he has. Henry, let's continue this conversation, but really quick, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time, where you can see Luke Wattenberg play in person this week in Washington. If you're going to be out there in the DC area, make sure to go to Game Time to get your tickets, because if you download the Game Time app, you are going to get $20 off your first purchase after using the code DNVR over at Game Time. And additionally, if you're in Denver, Broncos are going to be playing at home against the Packers in a couple of weeks. You want to make sure to get your tickets over at Game Time as well. Not only do you get that $20 off, but it's the best user experience. It's the best interface. I absolutely love it. Everyone at DNVR uses it, and so you should as well. And of course, it's not just for Broncos games. You want Nuggets, apps, concerts, and then Rockies next spring. You can get it over at Game Time. Use that code DNVR over at Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app. Use that code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Tap Ticket Go. Download the Game Time app today.
Also, shout out to Dick's. I talk about it all the time, but that's basically the only place I shop. Actually, this jacket's not from Dick's. It's a Grizz jacket. But everything else, the hoodie, I actually might need a new one because I washed it with a bunch of colored clothes and hot water. And so it's not quite the same color it was. It's a little bit like tinted now. Shirt underneath is Dick's, yes. It's these Nike pants I'd imagine are Dick's, socks Dick's, shoes, Nike shoes Dick's.
You got dicks
Dick's is
all
just the
over
place to go.
yourself, baby.
Always do. Nike, Adidas Originals, FP Movement, Cali, DNVR, so many different brands, whether you're shopping for baseball, football, soccer, basketball, golf. They've got all the gear that you could want, tailgating supplies. If you find a better price somewhere else, you probably won't, but they'll match it with their best price guarantee. So you can get your gear fast with free curbside pickup at your nearest store or easy shipping from Dicks.com because every season starts at Dicks.
And one more shout out to everyone that's tuning in with us on an emergency show, including DNVR Blackburn, who says he and his family are going to be there only a couple hours away for Sunday Night Football. It's going to be his son's first game ever. That is going to be awesome. And again, love everyone that is chiming in with all of this, with all of their feedback and hitting us with the thumbs up. We really, really appreciate you. Henry, one other thing that I think really, really sticks out to me about this deal. Sean Payton, this is his third year being here. His first year, he had pretty much this exact same offensive line outside of a center. He had a different center. That was Lloyd Cushenberry, who was Sean Payton's center his first year with the Broncos. The Broncos like Lloyd, and ideally they wanted to keep him around, but they did not want to pay him the big-time money that he eventually got. Lloyd Cushenberry went on the open market, got $12.5 million a year. You got $50 million total. Just less than 2 years later, we see Sean Payton willing to pay $12 million a year for Luke Wattenberg, which I think speaks volumes to him because Lloyd Cushenberry was a good center, especially at the end of his time with the Broncos. He was a very good center. That's why he became the fifth highest paid center in the NFL, or why he is the fifth highest paid center in the NFL right now. I think he was like the second or third highest paid center when he got that deal. Broncos nearly matched that deal with Luke Wattenberg, which I just think speaks tons to how they view him inside the building.
Oh, totally. And they were right. I mean, there's only one center in the NFL who's given up 5 sacks this year. As much as I love Lloyd, like the facts are the facts. And it's bad situations, obviously, out there in Tennessee as well. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. You know, Luke was an older prospect. It's one of the reasons he fell in the draft. He's 28 now, so it'll be 29 next year, 30, 31, 32 in the last year of this deal, which again, for an offensive lineman is no big deal. But for an offensive lineman like him, it might mean a little bit more. The reason he fits so well in Denver is because he's as athletic as any center you're going to find in the league. You see it on the screens, the way that he's able to get out there and block, which is obviously a big piece of the offense. He's able to get up to the second level. The Broncos want to run all that outside zone stuff. Haven't fully committed to it, but with Luke and his athleticism, that's really where he shines, is all that sideline to sideline stuff. And he isn't, the bulkiest, strongest, stockiest type guy. But the way that they've deployed him, he fits really well. And I think that probably is why, that combined with just the continuity, like the idea of having the same center, a guy who's been in the offense, who knows what all the looks are supposed to look like in this run game, pairing him with the same quarterback and keeping that continuity. Again, just ask Peyton Manning how much it helped having Jeff Saturday, a guy who he worked with for most of his career with the Colts. It just on a whole bunch of levels made a lot of sense. And one of the things that Sean has said in the past, I think it was Sean, was, if we're not going to pay him, who will we pay? And you have somebody who's smart, who fits in the offense, who is leaned on a lot for the mental game, is obviously helping Bo, because those two kind of work in tandem before the snap. And again, it's just a scheme fit because he gets out in space and gets to the second level, creates explosive plays. And I mean, hasn't given up a sack this season. Isn't perfect in pass protection, but that's one of the reasons the centers usually get the least money in the NFL, is because you're almost always working a double team in there. But still hasn't given up a sack, which you got to give him props for that as well.
Yeah, Henry, it's been over 500 snaps since Luke Wattenberg has given up a sack, and that is just an investment in Bo right there. So that is why the Broncos made this deal, is because this is all about Bo. It's all about the offensive line. That is how Sean Payton builds teams, and how he is building this one with Bo as well. So I'm okay with the deal. It is impressive how much money they are dishing out to their offensive line. At next year, it will be an average annual value of over $80 million for these 5 players. But Henry, dishing out $12 million a year to Luke Wattenberg, over $80 million to your offensive line. Let's quickly have a conversation about what this means or could mean for other players, maybe on the offensive line or on the team. We talked about it earlier today, and if you missed it, John Franklin Meyer, according to our friend Chris Thomason, the Broncos have not talked to him about an extension. I saw some people in this Toyota chat saying, man, I was hoping that this was an extension for JFM. Broncos have not had extension talks with JFM. The bigger the contracts they give out to other guys, the less likely it is that JFM is going to be back. And this is just another sign that JFM is probably not going to be back with the Broncos next year. But one thing that saying all of that I do want to add, the Broncos have the advantage of having the wealthiest owners in the NFL. And one of the ways that they can continue to pay people is because they have endless amounts of cash. And that cash can help secure players in extensions. It can help change other people's contracts, restructure current players' contracts, and give them signing bonuses up front to allow for more cap space. So I'm not saying that JFM, there's no chance he's back, but just the more people they sign that aren't him, it's just not the best sign that he's going to be back.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it's a lot of money to be giving. Based on the numbers from over the cap, the Broncos should be second in offensive line spending. They should be right behind the Vikings, 89 million versus 88 million, with the Chiefs next year at 97 million, which will be the most. But yeah, there's only so much money to go around. The Broncos get to play with more money because they can give out so much more cash. I think you also look at Ben Powers and say, he's been on like the short list for guys who could be cap casualties this offseason since he signed that contract. That was the year you kind of circle and say you either have him for one more year or you save $10 million if you move on from him. Well, you just gave $12 million to Luke Wattenberg, so you could pretty easily slide that money over and say we're happy with what we've seen from Alex Palshevsky, and we're gonna let him go. Or like we also like Calvin Throckmorton, who's still in the building. We can piece that together, and if we happen to see a guard we like in the draft to compete, then we might like that group even more than we do right now. But again, like those are conversations that the Broncos will have after the season. Because you want to see what's going to happen with Palshevsky for the next couple weeks. And when Ben Powers gets back, what does he provide versus what Palshevsky gave? But you do wonder when you have given out the second most money to your offensive line, if maybe one of those guys is on the block. And after this year is when you would also look at Mike McGlinchey. But he'll be around for at least one more year. And again, for the $17.5 million, whatever it is, you're getting a good player over there.
Yeah, and Ben Powers is expected to be healthy in roughly 3 or 4 weeks coming back from that injury. So that's going to be very interesting. And Henry, that decision right there, if they keep Palcho in, if they put Ben Powers back in, is going to tell us a lot about Ben Powers' future there, because obviously if they like what they see from Palcho, then I think the writing's on the wall for what that means for Powers. And like you said, he's $13 million a year. This new deal is $12 million a year. So it doesn't actually impact the money that you're spending on the offensive line moving forward right there. And Henry, this is I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. This is an investment in Bo, but Bo's the reason you are able to do this, that you're able to pay the defense top of the line money. Pretty much everyone on the side of the defense is getting legit money. But you're able to do this and then pay your offensive line because Bo's a rookie. And that is why this window right now, why I heard in February that Sean Payton believed that the Super Bowl window was now, is because when you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie, or a young quarterback on a rookie deal, it allows you to pay so many guys that you aren't able to. And the Broncos are trying to pack this all in the next couple of years before Bo's contract really kicks in. And because of Bo, you are able to do this. If you had Russ, if you had another quarterback you're paying, you would not be able to pay all 5 offensive linemen. You would not be able to pay 10 of your 11 starters legit money on the defensive side of the ball. Cortland Sutton as well, Evan Ingram. So it's because of Bo, and the Broncos are taking full advantage of that right now, going all in. And that is what they're doing, and they're going to continue to go all in the offseason next year in free agency, and still keep some of the guys that they have. If you missed it earlier, we had a full conversation just about all of the guys that they could re-sign and have extensions with. Alex Singleton, JFM. We talked about Luke Wattenberg, J.K. Dobbins. Some people are saying Jaquan McMillan. He's actually not an unrestricted free agent, but we did still talk about him. Make sure to go listen to our show from earlier today because we break all of that down. And the Broncos might not be done handing out deals to guys that are close to being free agents. And we'll be here for all of that. Henry, thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for everyone out there joining me. Before we sign off, anything you want to say?
No, I think we covered it.
Right on. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. We'll see you in just over 12 hours. We'll be live at noon tomorrow on Wednesday to break this down more, to talk about some big additions that the Broncos could get for this weekend's game against the Commanders. And boy, oh boy, did you hear Von Miller and what he said about the Broncos. You're not going to want to miss it. We're breaking it all down tomorrow at noon. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Hit us with a thumbs up on the way out. We'll see you tomorrow at noon.
We all silly like the mayor.